So you've just watched a video or a presentation that I recorded that will help you answer all of these questions about what makes a good composition. So these 4 things you find throughout the page. So make sure you're filling all that in. When you're done, you're going to apply, oh, by the way, make a box for this one. Okay. When you're done, you're going to now actually apply these things to the next page. So here's my next page. It's 3 blank squares, and you're going to build 3 designs in here. And on your table, you have a tub with some black paper, glue, and scissors. Basically, what you're going to do is cut designs and shapes to create good, strong, interesting compositions using these 4 things. So remember, these 4 things was zooming and cropping, making an interesting negative space, using the rule of thirds, and what was the other one? Oh, your point of view. So what angle or position are you looking at? So I just want to start by cutting some paper and just laying the things down. So I'm going to just kind of cut some interesting curves here, maybe, thinking about what kind of negative space would happen if. So it's a lot of what ifs. I'm varying my sizes, and I'm varying my shape, so I want a nice variety here. And now I'm getting some cool shapes. It was a little boring before. So I'm getting some interesting shapes, and even the way they're laying down here, kind of, you can see, create an interesting negative space. So I'm going to go ahead and start laying these in here. I can start with them very close together. Find my next one, here it is. So what's happening with my negative space is I'm actually creating the white becomes part of the negative space. And I could keep them very close together here if I want, or I could move them further apart. I could also make them start to tip to kind of create a sense of movement off of here. Now, I think that this end is much more interesting than this end, so I'm going to slide it down and get rid of some of these. So I've really considered my negative space here. My rule of thirds in the fact that this is not right in the middle. Okay, so my interest is not in the middle, it's off on that 3rd piece, that 3rd grid area. And obviously we don't have much of a point of view. So this is a big focus on my negative space and my rule of thirds. So when you get this arranged the way you want it, you're going to use the glue stick and glue them down. I'm not going to make you watch me do that because I'm sure you know how to use a glue stick. So I'm going to look at my other pieces, and I want each one to be different. So now I'm going to kind of cut some shapes. What if I were to just build with some squares now? Again, I want a variety of interest levels, a variety of sizes. What can you do with a square after all, right? So I'm going to start laying this down. Already I'm thinking about my negative space, and I'm going to vary things a little bit so I don't get too boring. Certainly don't want boring. I'm going to I'm looking at these negative spaces, and it's expected to kind of do this, but that's a little boring. So let's kind of play around with breaking up that square, the next square that I might put down, into this. Now my negative space is kind of weaving around, and I could even throw in more surprises by totally not doing the checkerboard at this point. Definitely negative space weaving around. My central focus is not right smack dab in the middle. I've got interest over here and some interesting things going on over here. Really considering that negative space. Flip this for some more interest. A song about negative space came on. It's listening to me. Okay. Who knew I had a song about negative space on my phone? I didn't. So I kind of have an interesting, that's a little boring though. I might come back to that. So let's go on to the 3rd one. You're doing 3 of these, and I want you to see that they can be very different from each other. So here I could take 2 squares, and again, composing wise, I'm going to cut just kind of a Henry Matisse shape. He did these wobbly, really cool amoeba kind of shapes. So what I want to show you here is that you have that. That's a little boring, very symmetrical, but very boring. But I could also take and start, oh my goodness. We'll just make art to some music then. I don't know why that's not going on. We may have to do this again. So same shape up here, maybe putting it down here. This is not a nice composition. It's pretty boring. It's not very interesting, but that's what this is about, trying things. So let me take maybe some long strips or triangles. And let's see what happens with that. It didn't like what I just did. So we have more paper. So now that's getting a little more interesting, kind of looking at my shapes. Remember when I think this class we did the lines, the repetitive lines and geometric things. So now I'm kind of building, I'm messing this up with my sleeve. I'm building something that's a little more interesting here. Let me come back in and do some more triangles. So I'm thinking about my rule of thirds, interesting things over here. I'm repeating these triangles, that's kind of cool. And I'm looking at how my negative space weaves through the whole piece. And yes, I am going outside the lines, that's okay. Still don't like it. So I'm gonna move this here, really going outside my lines. And I'm gonna flip this here. Nope. That's better, isn't it? So I kind of have the stair-step feel going in here. I have a lot of negative space here with my central focus right here, but sometimes negative space is okay. Let's pull in this shape one more time. See what happens in a smaller variation or smaller version. I kind of like the play of the triangles. All kinds of noise going on. Okay, so I have three kind of compositions, thinking about the negative space, thinking about the rule of thirds, you're not really zooming and cropping with this, but because there's nothing to zoom on, it's just kind of abstract shapes. But this is what you're doing. You're working on creating a very interesting composition with three of them with the papers that are in here, black papers.